Hey, 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 hey. How is everyone doing out there? So we have you both, we have two of you on the screen, Paul.
I'm having some technical issues, isn't it?
Yeah, so
What I'm
let
gonna
me
do, right, Debbie, is that
see
I'm
about
gonna
that.
load up my.
So we have you both, we have two of you on the screen, Paul.
I'm having some
There you
technical
go.
issues, isn't it?
Yeah, so
What I'm
let
gonna
me
do, right, Debbie, is that I'm gonna load up my.
so we have you both, we have two of you on the screen. Oh, there's a real lag. There you go. So, hi guys, as you can see, we've got a bit of technical issues. Even though this is like our 12th edition, I don't know what is going on Paul's side, but I hope that you can hear me loud and clear. Let me know if you can hear us and let us know who's with us. I've seen two of my cousins so far on here, one in Florida and one, I believe, I don't know, out of London. Where are you now, Philip? I don't know. But it's good that you guys can join us. Welcome to another gym time. Get your motivation. So, Paul, can you hear me? Oh, you can hear me, but I can't hear you. So I don't know what's going to happen today. But the thing is, our subject today
Can you
is.
hear me now?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you. So I don't know what's going to happen today, but the thing it's is, delayed.
Can you hear me now?
And I can hear myself back. How comes?
Delay.
Yeah, but I can actually hear myself back. There's feedback there for some reason, which is new. That isn't something that normally happens.
There's a delay. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come off and I'm gonna come back.
Oh, you're right now.
You just continue a moment, all right?
You're right now. Oh, he obviously couldn't hear me. So it's me, Debbie, by myself at the moment. Paul, or AKA Maurice, whatever way you want to see it. He will be back on shortly. He's just experiencing difficulties. So, like I was saying, today we are talking about domestic abuse. So, the reality is, if Paul wasn't able to join us today, I could talk about this all the time because this is my forte. This is what I do. I'm a domestic abuse advisor. So I help and support women who's gone through domestic abuse. So this is really my subject. It was a subject that Paul picked actually off the back of the conversation that we was having last week. He had done some research and he had seen that there was stuff about controlling behaviors. So if you didn't join us last week, you can watch the replay on that one and the one before and the one before. This is week 12. And so you have lots to catch up with if you haven't watched any of the others. Last week there was some really funny moments in there, but yeah, it was all good. So for those of you who don't know, we always do a disclaimer. And our disclaimer is basically we are not professionals in the sense that we don't have a title. Like you get some people who are relationship coaches and they've gone, and I don't even know what they actually study to be a relationship coach. Do you guys? Do you know what they study? I don't know. Relationships, I guess. But we're not professionals in that area, but we are professionals because of our experiences. So the things that we've experienced in life, just like yourselves, we all experience these things in life, and it's whether you actually want to pay it forward, whether you are going to be sharing your experiences with other people. And that's what we've chosen to do, is to share our experiences. So what we do say is that you can go ahead and try some of the things that we have tried. Some of it has worked for us, some of it hasn't. This is life. We're always learning, we're always growing and becoming. So there are things that we will naturally, you know, experience in our life that is difficult and challenging. However, if you've overcome that thing, why not pay it forward? Why not just, show someone some of the things that you did, the strategies and the principles and so forth, just to help somebody else. So that's what this is all about. It's get your motivation time. It's you coming on here and me and Paul just sharing our experiences with you and experiences from other people. And, we pick up these things. So that's my disclaimer. Paul still hasn't come on yet. So we are going to talk about domestic abuse and controlling behavior. And I think that off the back of last week, when we were speaking about different situations, and Paul started speaking about controlling behavior and what that actually looks like. He didn't go too far into it, but he certainly touched on some points that was very, very necessary for us to think about it and then go ahead and do it this week. So I wanted to bring up the title. So it's unspoken expectations was last week, and we was talking about the expectations that we will have in relationships, how sometimes we don't actually share that with the individual, but it's something that we actually expect from them. And sometimes this can get you into trouble, because if you haven't divulged to that person the thing that you desire, how is that person meant to meet that need? So we was talking about that yesterday, and the fact that off the back of that unspoken expectations, you can start to become controlling and wanting that person to fit into your box, into your mold, whatever you want to really call it. And so that's where we picked this up from last week. And I was quite surprised actually that Paul said, let's do this subject, because it's not something that I thought that he would really get involved in terms of controlling behaviors and so forth. But hey, let's see where it goes today. So we have Mel, that's in Florida. We have 247 Shisha. I'm not too sure where you are chiming in from. We have Phil Campbell. And so let us know where you are tuning in from and whether this is the first time you are joining us. If it's the first time, I think that it's the first time for Phil and 247 Shisha. If it is, put a 1 in the chat. Put a 2 in the chat if you've watched more than one of our broadcasts. That would be good. So 1 if this is your first time, 2 if you've watched more than one of the broadcasts, just to kind of get a feel of who's on here, who's watched before, and so forth. And you, like I said, you can go back and watch the previous 11 shows. It's a lot to catch up with, guys, but I'm sure that you guys watch Netflix and they've got lots of series on there, and you might sit and binge them. You can sit and binge Gym Time. That would be a good one. So I don't know what's happening with Paul, and I didn't really want to crack on just yet, because I wanted it to be a balanced conversation where we're asking each other questions and so forth. So I didn't want to go right ahead into it just yet. So that's why I'm just trying to gauge who's on here, who's watched the broadcast before, and so on and so forth. So let me have a sip of my drink. So no 1s and no 2s. So maybe you guys have put it on and then walked away, or eating your dinner or something, why there's no 1s and no 2s in the chats. So 1 if this is your first time, 2 if you've watched the broadcast before. Come on, work with me, guys. Work with me. I haven't got my sidekick with me just yet. So you guys are my sidekick until he comes on. Unless you want to hear me sing. Okay, so Millicent said 2, so she's watched more than one broadcast. I definitely know that you've watched more than one, because you've been on live with us a few times. So thank you for that. Thanks for joining us once again, cuz. Philip, is this the first time that you are watching us live? What is going on with his thing? This is ridiculous. Sing? No, you don't want to hear me sing. I am not a Whitney Houston. Trust me, I am not a Whitney Houston. I wish that I was. No, I don't wish that I was a Whitney Houston. I wish that I was blessed with those kind of vocals. But yeah, that isn't my calling. My voice is my superpower, but not my singing voice. So do you know what I could do? I can actually bring on somebody on this chat if I wanted to. Let me see, because I'm not too sure what is going on with Paul, and I didn't want to steamroll into this without us equally both having the opportunity to share our points. So let me oops, no, that's not working there. Right, so I'm just sending out a link. Right, so thank you guys for bearing with us. He's not even nowhere near to come on. I actually just sent out a link there. So, yes. So let's see how we are going to do this evening. Because, you know, when you have to think of a contingency and see if you can just come up with something on the spot. So, and the joke about this is we always come on ahead of time and make sure that everything is perfectly fine. But for some reason, it wasn't today. And so he was working behind the scenes to try to get it up and running, but it just simply isn't working very well. So one of the things that I actually do is a domestic abuse awareness session. I'm not going to actually do that today, but what I am going to do is speak about certain signs of controlling behaviors in relationships. So sometimes what you find is that you can be in a relationship with someone and there's certain things that grate against you. And to be quite honest, there are a number of people who do experience some kind of abuse or toxic relationships, but because it's quite normal, it might have been something that they've experienced in their home growing up as a child. They don't typically see it as domestic abuse. I've encountered this with numerous amount of women that I've worked with where they've just been like, no, I actually did a session a couple of years ago with a group of women, and they brought me in to have a conversation with these women, and it was like amazing. You know, you have these conversations, and you just like with me, I'm just very forthright, so I'm just sharing some of my story. And this lady turned around and she said, you know, during the break, she was just like, I'm not really sure why I'm here because, you know, my partner, he doesn't hit me or anything. This is a common thing when people are experiencing domestic abuse. They say, I haven't been hit. And so, what we are talking about is one aspect of domestic abuse, which is a controlling behavior. So, when you're experiencing somebody who is stopping you from seeing family and friends, telling you what to wear, so it's coercion and controlling, telling you what you should wear, even to go to degrees to telling you what you can eat. All of those kind of things are controlling. Now, sometimes the lines are kind of blurred a bit because there are people who think that their partner's controlling by, especially, let me put it this way, when you're Christian and you are in a relationship, most Christians know from biblical perspective that the men are the head of the house, right? So when you are in a relationship where those are the dynamics, sometimes the woman may feel as though that man is controlling them based upon biblical principles. However, there are people who take it to the next level. Don't get me started on that, because there are people, believers, who take it to the next level where it just becomes far from a biblical principle, but you absolutely are trying to control that person. We're not talking about someone who's not making you see your family, someone who's telling you what to wear, telling you, you know, what you can and can't do. With that there isn't about you being the head of the house. That's you being controlling. So there was a number of things that we can look at in terms of controlling behaviors. And oftentimes people don't know that they're being controlled because it's become normalized. When I say people, it can be men, it can be women. And one of the things that I was talking to somebody about the other day was sulking. When you're in a relationship with someone and they don't get their own way and they sulk and they go into a mood and they withdraw, again, that is another sign of controlling behaviors. And it's very subtle because you might get used to somebody doing that all the time. And it might not be something that happens often, but it is a form of control. You know, when they say, you know, like when you're talking about a black woman being aggressive and white woman tears, well, they use the white woman tears in order to control a situation, like, you know, this whole Karen thing at the moment. But, you know, they use that as a form of control. And so when you're in a relationship with someone, it is important to identify these kind of things. And the only way that you will identify is being somebody speaking to you about an awareness. Otherwise, if it's something that you've experienced all your life or been around people that do these kind of things, you won't know that it has control behind it. So let me see what's happening with this dear brother of mine, because I don't know how. I don't know why his system is not working today, and I can't seem to get a hold of him by this way. So, guys, has any of you experienced controlling behaviors? What have been the things that you have experienced that may have made you think that it is controlling behaviors? Put something in the chat. Is it, has it been somebody stopping you from living your best life, telling you how to dress, telling you not to talk? I mean, you'd be surprised that there are relationships where, when, say, for instance, a couple's out at dinner and the person's going to speak, they're told not to speak. Like, I was talking to someone recently and they said, yeah, my partner said when we're out not to speak. And I was like, are you serious? They said, yeah. They say to me not to speak when we're out because they might say something stupid. Controlling behavior. Like, how can you tell your partner not to say anything because they might say something stupid and embarrass you? Controlling behavior. And the thing is, with these kind of controlling behaviors, people make it seem as though it's the other person. That's the long and short of it. They take the onus off of themselves, and they will make that other person think that it's because of something that they've done or something that they've said, which is making them act the way that they're acting. And it's so far from the truth. It is them, again, using it as a form of control. So tell me, have you heard or do you know of people who is demonstrating a controlling behavior, and what does that look like? Because oftentimes people get caught up with the main things when it comes to controlling behaviors. Fam Law Chick UK says sometimes a client will say, one day they turned around and they didn't have anyone they lived, sorry, turn around and they didn't have anyone they lived left, like friends and family members. It's gone on for so long, they don't know, they didn't know it happened. Loved ones. Okay. So are you saying that it's happened, a person's been controlling, and then before they knew it, they turn around and there was no family members and so and friends left around, because it's gone on for so long. Is that what you were saying? Because of that person's control. Because what happens, you can have the extreme control where it happens quite fast, right? Yeah. So it can happen quite fast when you get into a relationship with someone, or it can happen over a period of time, because what people who are coercive and controlling, they try to detach you from people, and you will see signs of them that is so amazing, so beautiful, that you can then start to say to family members, you know, he's not like that, or she's not like that. And those family members totally see it. Yeah. Over years, and fast as well. Yeah. So family members often pick up on certain things, and they will be saying, oh, I don't like it when he does this, or I don't like it when she does that. And the individual will be like, no, because he does this and she does that, and they're just really kind and they're really nice. And then it can cause conflict between you and your family members. I know people who don't speak to their family, haven't done so for years, because of their partner. And then they found themselves in a situation where now this relationship is so toxic, they don't have their friends and they don't have their family to bounce nothing off of, nobody to support them, and they're left. And excuse me, they feel ashamed to now go back to their friends and family and say absolutely anything, because their family, they think that their family is going to say, I told you so, I told you so. But oftentimes friends and family are not going to do that. They're not going to do that. But as long as you have that in your mind where you think that they're going to do that, you will stay away from them. And most of the time, they will open their arms, welcome you back in, and try and give you the love and the support and the care that you actually need. But if you think in your head, my family is going to reject me, then that will cause you not to approach them. And again, it's about ego, and it's about pride as well. And if you strip it back, that's what it really is, because you don't want no one to tell you that you was wrong. And sometimes not sometimes, we just have to lay that aside, because some of these relationships are so toxic that ultimately this can result in extreme depression. It can cause people to start taking drugs, drinking. Depression is huge when it comes. And the thing is, with this kind of abuse, because it's not often seen, it's not a thing that is seen, people experience it and sometimes don't realize why they're going into depression, and why they are drinking, and why they are smoking, you know, drugs, and getting high, and so forth. Sometimes they're doing it with that particular person as well. um the strongest the strongest thing they can do is get help. Absolutely. And the thing is, if you're not going to get help, you're just going to be in a repetitive cycle. Ammo one said that example is a blatant one, Debs. Don't speak. How about more subtle examples, like trying to use the children as an excuse for you not to worry your family? Sorry, for you not to worry your family a lift home. Sorry, I didn't understand that last little bit. The abuser is often shocked and disempowered. Absolutely. Let's see. Let me see what's happening now. Let's see if this is working.
Yay!
There you go. Now you just blacked out the screen.
No, I know. I'm just
Trying to get,
listen, Debbie. 3 laptops, 2 devices, and it just wouldn't let me in. And I so
wow.
wanted to be on this from the beginning. This is my, this is not my subject, but I had so
I know. It
much to say.
looks like if
I'm
you're
never
in
gonna
the
say
toilet
it
or
too.
something somewhere, like hidden away. Let me just
Listen,
finish
I was in
reading
the
these
car.
comments.
I
So,
came inside. It's just been crazy. But hi, everybody. Finally, I'm here. Yeah. Anytime it's going to be such a wonderful subject or deep subject,
I
something
know.
wants to go funny.
But the
It's
thing is,
crazy.
it's funny, it always goes wrong on your side and not on mine. So
Thanks.
Ammo one was saying the subtle kind of examples, trying to use the children as an excuse for you not to worry to give your family a lift home. I mean, okay, so yeah, so you can have those subtle ones. The thing is, like I said, sometimes it's subtle because you you experience it so often, and so because you experience it so often, it is very subtle. It's something that they do and have been doing for a while that you become accustomed to. So there are times when people speak to you in a particular way, and it might grate against you first of all, but then after a while, because they're saying, oh, it's just how I am, isn't it? That's just who I am, that's just the way I talk, and that's the way how I communicate and stuff. You then start to say, okay, well, maybe this person is like that, and not identifying that the person's actually using coercion and control. How about using silence in order to avoid discussing the truth? Yeah, we call that in our field stonewalling. So if there is something that you want to discuss with that person, and they say, do you know what, we'll talk about it another time, and they don't, we call that stonewalling, where you don't really want to have that conversation. Sometimes because that conversation is quite deep. Sometimes because you don't want to be accountable. You don't want to be challenged in any way, shape, or form. You just want to control. And so ultimately, what they will do is not have that conversation. Sometimes when the woman is controlling, it can be the tears, it can be the shouting, it can be the screaming, which causes the person, the man, not to want to have those conversations with a woman, um, or resolve issues. Yeah, absolutely, Famlaw. So go ahead, Paul, because I've been
Yeah,
speaking.
no, where I was going to say, did you I was looking, obviously, as you know, everybody, that we go and we look at different things as well. Did you um or what? Let's go with this. It says, what is counted as domestic abuse? We define domestic abuse as an incident or pattern of incidents of controlling, um, conceived, threatening, degrading, and violent behavior, including sexual violence, in the majority of cases by a partner or ex-partner, but also by family members or carer. And it says it's carer, and it says it's common. One of the things I was reading, it was saying that some of the attributes of the abuser, or the things that they have within themselves, is a fear of rejection, emotional withdrawal, drawn, and or abandonment are major factors that actually cause these types of men, women, um, to be violent. Men who, on here it says, men who batter women are often psychologically incapable of leaving the relationship. But it's also the other way around as well.
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend of mine earlier on who may be on here. His name is Joseph, and he was speaking about an issue that he was with. That and I can relate to it, where
Yeah.
sex is used as a weapon, and it's a
I'm with
form
you
of
there.
abuse, you know. And I didn't even know about all these different things, because straight away you think, domestic abuse. You don't ever really look at, and mental, you don't look at certain little key things that happen as well, and how someone can control you, or try to control you emotionally by, as you was mentioning earlier on, about tears, floods of tears. So now, whatever it is that you might have been going to go out, you're going to go out, but all of a sudden now you won't go out because that person actually didn't want you to go out, but they were talking about something completely different, unrelated, but it's related, and start the tears and the, oh, why, and I'm here alone, and I relate to some of it. This is a subject that I think we should do a part two, and hopefully my things are up and going, because I'd like to speak about on both sides of the fence. Ooh, did I say that? Both sides of the fence. I've been both. I've been on both. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, Debbie,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that domestic violence is a learnt behavior or a natural one because the person feels out of control or frustrated? And I'll put that out to
It's,
everybody else as well.
yeah, it's a learned behavior. It's definitely a learnt behavior because even um let me go back in the chat. um Famlaw Chick said earlier on about manipulation and control and manipulation. They're very similar. Now, as a young child, a child learns how to manipulate. They learn how to do things to get their own way. If that's not
Hmm.
out, they will learn how to use that manipulating behavior to control someone. So recently I had a conversation with someone who where one of their children was manipulating the other to get their own way. And I said that that needs to be stamped out so that this child doesn't use manipulation to start to control. um, because it is learnt behavior. It is something that you see and you try it and it works for you and you continue to use that to get your own way. And so it you might see it in you might see friends do it, you might see, you know, family members do it, you know, you could see it on television, you can pick this up absolutely anywhere. You know, there's times, you know, that I have used manipulating tactics that I realized in my previous marriage, that I realized that this is now controlling. I realized that this isn't really me. I was doing it to get
Mm,
my own way because of
mm,
how I was being treated. And I had to really check myself and say, no, this isn't really me. This isn't a way to go about things, because this isn't pure. This isn't right. This isn't how you get what you want in life. Um, I think Ammo one said, if couples argue and both throw words, are they both abusers, or can this be seen as marital conflict rather? Now, you both can be seen as abusers. Just because you are doing things at each other doesn't mean that it's just marital conflict. You can get somebody who is throwing words and the other person chooses not to throw words. Just because
mm.
there are words that are being thrown around by both of you doesn't mean that it's just marital conflict. You can be very much abusive to your partner. I was speaking to someone the other day and I said, within some of the relationships that I've seen, when women have come to me, I've had to identify to them that they have been abusive, because they haven't seen it. They haven't seen that what they have done has been abusive. And they say, oh, but what about when he did this? Wasn't that abusive? Absolutely. But you
Yeah.
also are becoming an abuser. You also are identifying as somebody who is controlling, who's manipulating the situations to get your own way. You now are becoming an abuser yourself, because
Mm.
that person is doing something that is going against you, and you now want to get your own way. And in order to do that, you're going to manipulate and you're going to control.
Do
And
you,
so,
do, you- do, you, do you think that for some people it's their defense mechanism? Because if someone's abusing you, um, you want to defend the yourself from, and I'm not talking about physical. I mean, this is a verbal.
mhm,
You want to defend yourself against what the person's saying. So, you know, someone told you to, you in turn around and say to them, no,
mhm.
and then it escalates from there.
But
Would
that's
you
where
say that is,
self-control comes. That's where self-control
that's
comes
right.
from.
And I
And that's
agree
why
with
I'm
that.
saying I could identify that I now was being an abuser. I was
Yeah.
now taking on that role, rather
Mm,
than saying, do you know what? Let me get out of this relationship. This is toxic. Because
mm,
that's where you end up having those conflicts, and it's toxic. It
mm.
becomes a toxic relationship when it's going backwards and forwards, and you both are being verbally abusive. Physical, all right, let's not go down a physical route, because we all know what the physical side of things,
Yeah.
but you're both being verbally abusive. I know, um, woman who spat in a man's face and
Yeah.
then and has not considered that as abuse. They haven't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
It's
mean?
funny you say
Pick
it's funny you
clothes,
saying that, but
pick clothes
outside,
and throw out stuff and do all kind of stuff. It's abuse. You can't even dress it up. It's
mm,
abuse. And if you
you know,
identify yourself as somebody, sorry Paul, as
no,
somebody
that's right.
who where somebody is being dealing with you in that way and you have been responding to that in a like manner, you have to check yourself. And it really is, especially if you're with somebody who's abusive, it is self-control. It is identifying, this isn't something that I ought to be doing back to that person. You can't control that person, but you can control you.
That's right.
Do
See,
you want to be
I was going to say that what you're saying about that spitting in the face, someone might not identify it here and now when they do it, but go outside and spit in
go and
someone's face and let them call the police, and you'll see what
exactly?
happens, what the police will
Yeah,
say.
that's right.
So if the law of the land will deal with you accordingly as assault, because it will be assault,
Mm-hmm.
you know, then why would you think that that is not abusive to put someone who's in your house? I remember, like I said, I've been in a domestic violence situation where it was on me as a man. Now, all the time, all I'm thinking is that, why am I taking this? Why am I taking this? I don't need to take this. I don't need to take this, you know? And every single time that they did what they did, slap me in my face, rip the clothes off my back, and just always a negative word about me, all I wanted to do was chin them. Yeah? That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to knock them out.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't do it. And see, at the time as well, I never really spoke about it that often because it's this stigma that I'm a man. Why am I going to be talking about, a woman dealing with me like that? I'm a man, I can deal with that. And there was a lot, again, it was a question that I was going to pose to you, but it's a question that's really posed to men and myself. Why don't you talk about it? Why don't you get help? Why don't you put it out there? You might tell the person, don't hit me, don't hit me. And they'll say, so what? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Yeah. And the first thing that will happen if you do it, they call the police. But
Absolutely.
you wouldn't call the police. You know what I say? Call the police.
Yeah.
I'm telling you the truth. Yeah. Because if you done it to a woman, if a man done it to a woman, okay, there are one of two things that will happen. One, she'll withdraw herself in fear because he's now got full control of the narrative, and she's in fear now, and she won't, and he'll threaten her that if you do, you'll get some more of this. Or she will have that strength to say, 999, hello. Even if he knocks the phone out of her hand, they're still going to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that in a situation like that, that is escalated to any form of violence and hands are on you as a woman or a man, 999. Love does not come into it. Love doesn't come into that factor at all, because love is caring, love is kind, and you were talking about it before about what love really is from a biblical standpoint as well. No one should sit and take abuse. I think at the same time, if someone's letting off, that silent thing can actually cause more of an issue as well. Not in all cases, but I do believe that you have to have the self-control to hold your mouth, to be able to, at the right time, even the question, why are you speaking to me like that? I ain't speaking to you no way like that, whether it's him or her. You've raised, I don't get the point. I don't know what you're trying to say. See, I've become that person of saying the noise, all I hear is noise. I actually don't hear what your point is. And so you need to speak to me or I'm not listening. You need to bring it down. And yet, I'm not saying you can't be angry. Even if we looked at it from a biblical standpoint, it says, be angry, but sin not. So if I'm looking in your head, I'm wrong. If I'm spitting in your boots, I'm wrong. If I'm grabbing your clothes up, I'm wrong. If I'm grabbing your arm, I'm wrong. If a woman wants to get away because she doesn't like, let her go. This doesn't come into play. If he wants to get away, this doesn't come into play. Where you going? Where you going? You're not going out. What? Because now you're
Now it's
pushing
gone to another
level. You
Yeah.
know,
And the thing is, there are situations where I can look back with hindsight and I can see where I upped the ante because
yes,
of how you spoke to me, how you dealt with
right,
me. And my response was, you know, just as aggressive, you know. And the thing is, I became that. I wasn't that initially. I became that. And then I became an abuser. So I knew how to manipulate. Like
mm,
I didn't even like know how to manipulate before, but then I learned how to manipulate. And I was thinking, well, if I do this, then I would have it all planning in my head. If I do this, then he's gonna do that, and then I'm gonna say that, and then I'm gonna do, and it was mad. It was literally driving me mad. I wanted to read what Amo said.
yeah, go on.
Sorry. Oh, let me read what Fam Lost Chick said, because I think that was important what he or
Yeah,
she said.
can
I
you
think
highlight that? Can you highlight it and put it up? Because I'm
all
not
right,
able to do that on where
yeah.
I am this time.
Sorry, 1 minute.
And thank you for holding the fort, Debbie. Yeah,
Yeah, well, like I said, it's my forte. I think it goes way back to the days of coverture, which is like the law where it's the woman has to abide under the man. I was speaking about it a little bit earlier on from a Christian perspective, where the man is the head of the house. Being the head of the house doesn't mean that you're meant to be controlling, though. The law is also male, so difficult to pin where, so it can be about the way children are raised. I hope I read that properly so people can
yeah, you did.
understand that. So it's difficult to pin it down where it
Yeah,
is, because if you're raising your children in a home where the man is the head of the house, a child can identify that as the man now needs to control a situation. So it is kind of difficult. It's demonstrating a healthy relationship where the man isn't just saying you guys are going to do this, you know, that's just controlling. You know, your wife is still meant to have input. You know, your husband's still meant to be doing what he's doing. Like, there are certain things that I've that we both know we was raised a certain way, and there's certain things that we will see and it just becomes normalized behavior. But
mm,
as you get older, you start to identify this isn't the way that things ought to be, and you change that, not just for yourself but for your children and
that's
your
right.
grandchildren. Emma once said, but isn't DA really a one way thing? If someone is responding to abuse with abuse, they are not the abuser, although they have used abuse. There is a subtle difference, I think. The thing is, if you're being abused, like I said, it is about self-control. It's about you saying this person is doing this to me, and you go and seek help. You get yourself out of that situation rather than allowing the situation to change you, because that's what happened to me. I allowed the situation to change me, and I then
Yeah,
had to take a stock of who I really am and say, no, this is wrong. Even if somebody is doing this to me, I don't have the right to do that to that person.
that's right.
It's just wrong. And I had to identify that. I had to apologize, even though I felt justified in doing certain things. I had to apologize, especially the fact that, to me, I'm a Christian. So if I'm trying to be Christ-like, the last thing I'm meant to be doing is manipulating and controlling. Get myself out of the situation, learn about who I am, identify
Mm,
the things that I'm doing
mm-hmm.
wrong, and move. And that's what I had to do. The more I
Likewise.
did,
Mm,
the more I did what the abuser did, was the longer I was in the situation. It never
so,
changed, never changed nothing. I had to change. I couldn't change the person.
yeah,
I had to change.
did you find that you had to look at the situation totally from a different perspective
I had to.
to what you
I
was
had to.
at the time? Because I keep on saying this thing, and it's going to keep on coming out my mouth. You're going to hear it probably every single week. We need to get out of our feelings. We catch our feelings too much, and we respond according to that, and as opposed to responding with knowledge and understanding. Because when you've got knowledge and understanding, then you know this environment is not conducive for me. And I'm not telling you you got to run off and divorce the person, but what you don't do is stay in that environment where you're constantly being abused. I was reading something else. This is another article that I was reading, and it says dominating a controlling relationship. The point may seem rather obvious. A controlling person will feel the need to exhibit their dominance over you. You need to recognize that your partners need to govern. Let's take it. You need to recognize that your partners need to govern your relationship. Quite possibly stems from another area in their life where they've lost control. Take a look at your partner. Are they continuously seeking employment or struggling financially? Do they give up easily? Can they sometimes be emotionally unavailable? Are they quick to apportion blame onto others for their shortcomings by putting you down, and they are regaining a bit of grip and power in their life? So, in other words, well, it's self-explanatory. In other words, everything else in my life is going wrong, and I'm losing control. So I'm going to control you.
Yeah.
This is just an article. I didn't know that bearing grudges and chronic criticism is a form of abuse.
Yeah.
This is why I have to do my homework. Controlling people hold a grudge, especially over things that seem trivial on the surface. They may also take offense to things. Remember I said about this feeling things? Yeah. They may also take offense to things you say very easily. Even asking them for help may be construed as an attack. Can you imagine that? You're asking for help, and what are you asking me for help for? Switch. Yeah? Well, you don't like to do it yourself. I have to do everything. You're like a child, right there. Right there. Yeah.
It's the criticism. People don't realize that when you're constantly criticizing and putting someone down, that is also a clear sign of abuse. But normally when people do that, it's because of their lack of self-confidence themselves.
Yes.
So they tend to put that other person down to make themselves feel better. And this is it kind of starts to go off into the narcissistic kind of behavior. It has to be at the forefront. They have to be the best. They have to be, everything has to be according to how they want it to be. And if it's not like that, then you're at fault and you're the reason why. Like, you can find people who are in situations where they haven't done anything wrong, but that person will tell them it's because of you why, the car isn't working. And it's like, oh, because of me. Well, if I didn't have to do this, if I didn't have to take you here, then the car wouldn't have conked out. And it's like, how did that become me?
Yep.
Kind of narcissistic
Do you,
control.
do you, do you,
But
do you know, can I just throw this one out?
Emma said this.
Go.
He said,
Go.
if you don't have self-control, not to respond, does that mean you are a domestic abuser? It means you have not got the self-control. Now, listen to what I said and what I and not what I didn't say. If you don't have the self-control not to argue with someone, so we're always going to have arguments. I'm not talking about someone that is having an argument. I'm talking about someone who is being abusive. What is the context of that argument? If
Right.
that context of that argument is abusive, then you are being abusive. Does it mean that you are an abuser? No, it means that you are being abusive and you need to be mindful of what you are saying. And there is a big difference. Someone who is abusive is someone who is now controlling, manipulative, who is now looking for ways to make sure that they make your life a misery. That's an abuser. Someone who might swear or might do something on the runaway off the back of what someone has done, No, I wouldn't say that they are an abuser, but they are being abusive. So, you have to be, and you have to be mindful, because before you know it, you can start being the abuser. How do I know this? Because this is what happened to me. I was first abusive, then I started to manipulate, then I became an abuser. I know that it's not something that just, you just make up. It is something that you can become if you do not catch a hold of what you are doing, and learn self-control. If I'm in a situation that's like for instance, not even necessarily in my marriage, but you can be outside and people can handle you a certain way. I had this man say some filthy words to me because I parked in the wrong place. And I spoke to him calmly. I said, "You ought not to speak to me like that." I said, "That's wrong." I said, "You don't speak to people like that." Now I could have argued
Switched it.
with him,
Yeah.
cussed him out, because I could have felt justified. But because I've learned self-control, even though that person spoke to me like that and they had no right to speak to me like that, because somebody else was upset with me because of where I parked, because I parked a truck and it blocked the junction, just the back of it blocked a junction. And it was somebody else that was annoyed, but he never spoke to me like this, spoke to me badly. But this man thought that he could just cuss me out. And I said to him, "Don't speak to me like that." I said, "How dare you speak to me like that? That is
Here-
disgusting." And
Here's a question that came to my
that
mind,
was my
Debbie.
response. Now, if I hadn't learned self-control, I would have said what I wanted to, what come to mind that is wrong. It didn't even come to mind, I'll be honest. I didn't
Mm.
even think of cussing him out, because I've learned self-control. I've learned that regardless of how that person speaks to me, I always must be in check with who I am. And if I find myself being out of sorts, it's for me then to go back. Like in that situation, if I spoke to that man disrespectfully, I wouldn't have been able to have gone back and said anything, but I certainly would have repented. But now, if I say anything out of sorts to anybody, I will go and I will apologize, because I have to check me. Do you know what I mean? I have to make sure that I'm doing right by me, and making sure that other people are not dictating and controlling my emotions. I must always be in check with my emotions. And sometimes that's hard, but that's the truth. Don't Paul, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you said that someone doesn't control, do you think that it's more of allowing them to? Because people can't do to you what you don't allow them to get away with.
Absolutely.
So an abuser will be able to abuse you because you allow him to get away with it, or her to get away with it. But
Hmm.
my question really was, do you think that there are sets of race of people that it becomes culture abusers? So for instance, in certain cultures, um, they do speak down to women. Women are less than anything. Do you think that is the same thing, or different to that?
Well,
So
I think that people will say it's a cultural thing, because and then it seems to be okay. What? Because it's your culture? No, it doesn't matter if it's your culture. Abuse is abuse. You there saying, "Oh, we're going to kill my daughter on a killing because she married somebody who she loved rather than someone who we betrothed to her." You're out of order. You're totally out of order. You're abusive. In some of these countries, they will stone you. They will stone you. You get what I mean? Because you didn't follow what they wanted you to follow. That's
that's
abusive.
that's abusive. That's taking,
Don't
trying to
tell me
have full control.
don't tell me it's your culture. Your culture's twisted, warped. The mindset is wrong. Do you know what I mean? Because it's
See,
culture.
I see it as well that and some people correct me if I'm wrong. It's just my opinion at the end of the day. I think that it's the same thing with the media and the government, how they dictate and control the narrative and people are like, if you don't think for yourself, you become like a sheep. You're herded in this way, that way, and everything else like that. And it still is a form of abuse and a form of control. And
Control.
you don't identify it. Yeah, it's control. You don't identify it at all. You don't, at all. This is the narrative. Follow this, and you're not supposed to think for yourself. And that's the same thing what happens in some relationships. That you're no longer able to think for yourself. You open your mouth and you say, I remember someone. I remember there was a question that was asked, and I believe I knew the answer, and I put my hand up.
The box down your hand.
No, and this person said, "Put your hand down before you embarrass me." But yet,
Didn't you hear me when I spoke about that earlier?
no, I wasn't on it.
Oh.
Oh, did you mention it?
Yeah. Because
Oh,
I know
right.
of another situation like that.
And I thought, and in myself, I wanted to just keep my hand up, but I became embarrassed. It was almost like even if I thought I knew the answer, now I don't know the answer because this person has told me, listen, put your hand down before you embarrass me. In other words, I know you don't know the answer to that. But that's how we learn. Yeah, we learn by mistakes as well. So if you're not going to learn, if a question's been thrown out and I'm answering it and it's wrong, I'm going to get the answer one way or another. This is big time room of teaching. There's a whole heap of people in here, and I never identified it until later on as it went. That I no longer had an opinion. I no longer had a voice. I no longer was me. You know. But what I do know is you learn. You learn from these things. I was reading something else earlier on about um, people who constantly check your phone and all these kind of things, and then you're going to ask all these questions based upon what I was one of those. Man, I wasn't just nosy, because the moment I saw something that didn't agree with what I wanted, I was on it. And what's this, and how comes this, and how comes that? Listen, it was terrible. When I look back, I can see where the traits of that relationship was there with me, because they were like that as well. Everything. Who's that? Why? Who? Jump, skip, what?
Mm-hmm. Oh, did you just freeze? I thought you was going to say something else. You just froze.
Oh, right, okay.
And then you just...
But it's when I go back to when we were in foster care and how I was manipulated by the young girl there and the Cohens in what they did. I realized that all those things controlled
pick up those traits,
my way of thinking, and then I took on some of those attributes, not even realizing, that they affected my whole life. It's only as a big man, an older man, I would say in the last 10 years, I've now been able to identify certain things. And in the last, let's say, about 4 years, I've been able to start working on those things and start digging them out and throwing them out.
But the good thing is that you identified it, and then you start to resolve it. And this is one of the things that, like, that I do my Time to Rise program, my Rise experience, and like, people want to come on it in their droves. You want to come on it. You want to get your life back together. You want to learn the strategies and the principles and all of those things. And it's amazing. But if you don't identify the things that have been stopping you, the things that have got you into relationships and situations, this isn't going to work for you. So, I've said to some people, you need therapy and then come back to me. Because it's like putting a band-aid on a wound and just hoping that alone is going to heal it. But this is deep. Do you know what I mean? This is deep. There is stuff that is going on underneath the surface, and it's not going to be fixed by you going on my program. It's not. And the reason why I say to people to go and do that is because if you come on my program and you don't see the results, you're going to think it's my program. when I know it's not my program. I
Yeah.
know that the program isn't going to work for you because you're not at the stage where you've had healing, internal healing and self-awareness, that you can now say, you know what, this is what happened to me as a child. This is the traumas that happened. And now I need to be healed from that so that I can move on with my life, so that I don't get myself in another domestic situation. You're
So what?
absolutely, you've been putting in the work. And the thing is, it's like having a garden in it, and there's tons of weeds in there, and you pluck them up, and then before you know it, they come back because they never was dealt with from the root.
That's right.
And you have to now say, nah, do you know what? I'm done with this. I'm going to really get some stuff to kill off all of these weeds. Do you know
But
what I
some
mean?
people think they normalize it, Debbie. They think it's just normal. This is the way
That's
I
what
am.
I'm saying,
This is the way
though.
I am. This is the
That's
way
just
I
the
am.
way I
And
am.
but someone's challenging you, saying that it's not normal. But no, it is normal. It's normal. It's normal for me. Then now you turn it on yourself. It's all
Yeah,
about
because it's
you. You
ignorant.
know,
It's
it's
ignorant.
easy. Of course it is. It is ignorance.
Pride,
Whereas
ego,
it's
ignorance.
right when something's highlighted, it's I'm learning that if someone says you're shouting, and I don't think like where my voice is now, some people might find that shouting, and it's not. And I'll say I'm not actually shouting. It's just that when I'm expressing myself, I raise my voice up
Voice, yeah.
because that's how that's my point. I'm making a point, a valid point. So here is my voice, but I'm not going to ignore what they're saying. They're not controlling the factor because it's what I want to say. So what I now do is I say, okay, so what I'm saying is, da, 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 because I don't want anybody to use an excuse of not listening to what I've got to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what I'm saying is valid and it's important. What they're saying is valid and important, so I'm going to take that on. Sometimes certain things are just a distraction. So then I'm not shouting. Yes, you are. Yeah, every time I start talking, you think that I'm shouting. What you've now done is gone off on a
Chase the
different.
rabbit.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, I don't. I'm not chasing. This is the point. This is the point. So an abuser, someone abusing you, you don't have to sit and listen to that. I'm not going to listen to you talking to me like that. You know, I know you wouldn't like me talking to you like that, so I'm not going to accept that.
Yeah.
I remember doing work. The man is telling me, don't go in the shop, and he's effing and jeffing, and he's telling me this and that. And if you go back down there, this is what's going to happen. F, F, F. Two of us in the room, but yet he's now focused on me. And he's effing and jeffing. And I said to him in the calmest of voices, I said, it's funny, I read something about managers
Bully.
that bully and abuse their staff. I said, do you know I can actually leave, walk off site right now, and you're still going to have to pay me, and then we'll deal with the matter differently. So I tell you what you do. When you calm down and you want to talk to me in a better way, I'll come back and listen to you. I open the door. As I open the door, he said, Paul. I said, yeah? I said, sorry about that. Right. You take control of a situation that seemingly is going out of control, or someone wants to abuse you. I won't allow it. And I would say to anybody out there the same thing. Don't allow it. Don't allow anybody to bully you or manhandle you, as the saying is. Get out. If you're accepting it for years and years and years and years and years and years, listen, there's low self-esteem. There's no self-worth there. And you really got to look at that area of your life. Listen, they say you only live once, using the expression. So why should you be living unhappy in an unhappy environment and allowing this to control you and make you feel, you wake up in the morning, you feel bad. You speak to a friend, you feel bad. You look in the mirror, you feel bad. You put on clothes, you don't feel good. Now, and that's for men and women, because there are men who are silent out there. You don't have to sit and take abuse. I'm not telling you end your marriage. I'm not saying end your relationship. What I'm saying, you don't have to take it. So you have to change the narrative. You have to change that situation, change the environment. If both of you need to do counseling, then if they don't want to do counseling, listen, after all the abuse, you need it. You need it. Yeah. It's like you transfer it. I transferred that into all my other relationships after that because I was being abused. I allowed it to go on for years and they never identified. Imagine you get slapped up in your face because you didn't say something right. and you're taking it.
Mm-hmm.
And the abuser, this is a woman doing it to me. And the abuser is, I can't say they're loving it, they just know I'm in control.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is about me and everything has to go my way. When I left that relationship, there was hardly anything left of me as a man. It broke me down. So when I started to be built back up, I was being built up with some of my own ideologies. I'm taking that from that woman. Talk to me like, who you talking to? Shut your mouth. You ain't talking to me like that. What would you say? Flicking your mouth.
Yeah, and
Yeah?
that's the thing, and that's the thing to identify as well, is that because there's been traumas, past
Right.
traumas, what
Yes.
people actually do, they now, like I said earlier on, can
Display.
become abusers because
Yeah.
they now are not going to tolerate that kind of behavior, and then they
Mm.
can take it to the extreme where they now are saying, right, I'm going to speak to you a certain way. I'm going to make sure that you don't do to me what that last person did.
That's right.
And so
That's
they
right.
already come in there with their guns already loaded,
Mm-hmm.
ready to fire at you if they even smell any kind of side eye. Do you know what I mean? If
I
you
was
give one
very
little
much like that.
side, if you raise your voice and or anything like that, they're ready to cut you down. And this is one of the things that people don't understand about abuse. Why people become abusers is because there is trauma,
Right.
non-negotiable. There's trauma there from
That's right.
childhood, going up, whatever age it might be. There's traumas there, and this person feels as though they need to control the situation, or
Yep.
else that person is going to control me. That person's going to belittle me. That person's going to hurt me. And
That's the one.
it is a defense mechanism.
That's right.
However, this is something that everybody is nobody can say that they don't have the ability to manipulate or to abuse, because
Mm-hmm.
we all have that within us, especially if you've experienced some form of trauma. But something that you said earlier on that reminds me of people who's been in abusive relationships, or are in abusive relationships. The thing that they want to do is to show the world that their relationship is great. Yeah.
Mm.
The worst thing for you to do, because getting out of it is even harder. It makes it so hard, because you've now done told the world, especially if you're on social media now, you've done told the world that our relationship is beautiful. We've got pictures to prove it. We're going on dates. We're doing this. This might be once in a blue moon where you culminate all of the pictures where you've gone out, and abuse and control is a cycle. You're going to go through that cycle where it's all cool and nice and you're all lovey-dovey and everything, and then you're going to feel that tension building, and you're going to be questioning, are they going to be upset? When are they going to get upset? When are they going to kick off? That's not any way to live, because it's going to go totally round in a cycle. If there's physical abuse, you're going to get hit. You're gonna get flung down. You're gonna get slapped. You're gonna get scratched. You know, that's another thing that I was saying to someone recently. You know, when you're in a toxic relationship and that person's arguing with you, especially as a woman, a woman will go to scratch you in your face or grab your
Mm.
and stuff. And yeah, there are men who will just clap you up. And then
Yeah.
there are some men who will just walk away. And if they walk away, that woman feels as though they've got the upper hand, and they feel like they can just continually do that. I
Mm. Mm.
remember seeing a guy and he had like scratches on his neck. And straight away you can tell that it's scratches. Like you can tell the difference between someone doing that, yeah, where they've grabbed you around the neck, yeah, because you will see the marks on either side, or someone who is scratched you across the face. Now, I don't know if someone was defending themselves while they scratched you, but I could see the scratches on the neck.
And they tell you it was the cat.
Exactly. Somebody told me recently that they got scratched and they had to say it was a cat. But what I'm saying is that it's a toxic relationship. Whether somebody was trying to get away from you, or whether you was the perpetrator or whether you was the victim. That's what I'm saying. It's still toxic,
It's
either
still
way.
something.
Scratches on you, you know.
I was thinking about those people who are in domestic situations that have children,
Yeah.
and they say, I didn't want to leave because of my children. I didn't want to. I took it all
That's
because
a
of my children.
whole.
I know,
That's
and
a
I'd love us to cover that
the
one day,
thing is,
because
the thing
I've
is
been.
that whole argument, yeah, is flawed. Yeah, it's a flawed argument, because the reality is if you stay, the children are in it. The children are going to feel it. If you leave, the children are going to feel it. Do you get what I mean? But you
Yeah.
being in it is teaching your children normalized behavior. You're teaching them that this is okay behavior. This is normal behavior. Unless you are taking your children to get counseling, unless you're having conversations with your children, which was two of the things that I ended up doing with my kids, took them counseling, having conversations with them about what is right and what is wrong and what I should have done and what I shouldn't have done. I apologized to my children. I went to my children and said, this is not normal. This is not right. This isn't how life is meant to look, because did I know that they'll be impacted by it? Absolutely. I was not naive to think that they wouldn't be impacted. But what I wanted to do was minimalize the impact. I didn't want it to be as traumatic as it would have been if I didn't take them counseling and if I wasn't having conversations with them. But the children are going to be impacted by it. You know what I mean? And the longer
Because
you stay, it's the
yeah,
worse it's going to be for them and for you. And I remember saying to somebody that one day I remember waking up and feeling confused. I utterly felt confused, because I was like, how on earth did I get here? And then it dawned on me, if I feel confused, my children must be double confused. And that's what made me seek help for them and try my utmost to kind of minimize the impact of the abuse and what was actually happening. Did you
Emo,
want
he says, what is
pull it
the
up?
cutoff point? I
Oh,
can't do it on this because I'm on a
okay.
different. Yeah. What is the cutoff point? How long should you persevere in prayer for change? Marital conflict can be toxic, but should you give up? And basically, when?
Only you
Do you
can.
know?
Only you as the
Only
individual.
exactly. I think it is an individual thing. When you're identifying that you are being abused and you are being controlled, and you look, no matter what happens, when you're in that situation, you become unhappy and your mood changes. You change, and you can see that you're changing when your thoughts are over there, or you think, "Ah, you're going to talk to me like that again. All right, you know what?" And they say women plan their exit strategy long before they actually leave. You know, some men are like that. I was like that. I just think that there comes a point where you must try. You must try. You know, and you must have faith in your trying. But it also comes a place where you've tried everything for look. Me, I was in it for 5 years, I think, praying, crying, praying, crying, crying, praying, and I just didn't see a change. That person chose to not change. It's a bit like Pharaoh, yeah? Hardened his heart. He said, I will not let my people, I will not let your people go. You know, some people dig their heels in even more when you want some form of change. You know, counseling was on the plate, but they didn't want it. Books was on the plate, but they didn't want it. So how long? That's up to you. How long you can take it. You can take that forevermore. Then you take it forevermore. You know, if you can only take it 6 months, then you take it only 6 months. It's up to the individual. I thought that it would be best to try everything that could possibly come to my mind till I had nothing else in my mind that I could actually think of doing to
Mhm.
try to make this that particular relationship work.
Well, I
Yes,
can say this. I can say this that if you're in a abusive relationship and it's absolutely physical, man or woman, I would say get out as quickly as you can. And the
yep,
reason why I would say get out quickly as you can is because you, who may be being abused, could be the person that takes that person out, because
yeah,
all it takes is for that person to push you to such a limit that you say no more. Yeah.
hmm,
And so you have to do it for self-preservation. Yeah, you have to think about who you are, what you can tolerate. That person can snap and take that abuser out because they've just had enough. So
can
when
I
there's
can I just
physical
go?
aspect of it, I would say get out as quickly as possible, especially if there's children. When
Mm,
it's the psychological abuse, emotional abuse, what remember earlier on I said that people who are abusers, they've gone through some trauma. Now, when you start to identify that, which is hard, unless you've got an awareness, you won't have no sympathy, no empathy towards that. Period. Don't care. Yeah. When you identify that, that person can actually get help and support if they identify that there's traumas. So I do know of abusers who have gone and got the help and support because they didn't
yeah,
actually identify that they was being abusive, because it's been normalized behavior that they experienced from childhood, which was their trauma. So they went and actually got the help and the support. If you're in a relationship and you've identified that somebody is abusive and that person doesn't want to go and get help and support, get out. Get out. Because they're not recognizing the situation that they're in. And so because they're not recognizing it, they're not going to get the help and they're not going to get better. But
that shock treatment can cause them to go and get counselling of when you leave.
absolutely. Like
Mm,
if you're in a relationship as well and it's abusive, emotionally abusive, you can start to get yourself books, educate yourself, start to build yourself up, build up your confidence, your self-esteem, your worth. Find people who you can put yourself around, who are going to encourage you, who are going to inspire you, who's going to motivate you. I never had that. I had to dig deep. I had to allow the Holy Spirit to be my teacher, to be my guide, to help me to build myself up, that I got the strength and I got the confidence that I was able to say, right, I'm out. I didn't actually have a exit strategy,
exactly.
to be quite honest. It literally, it was like one foot in front of the other. I just kept on moving. The more I felt stronger was the more I just kept on moving in that direction of strength. And then it got to a place where I was just like, I can do this. I can absolutely do this. But I did get to a stage where I was like, do or die. Like you're gonna have to take me out then. But it's gonna be nasty. It's gonna be bad. But I was so determined that I'm no longer gonna tolerate this, because I started to become stronger within myself. And it's having the right people around you, and it's building yourself up to such a place that you have the confidence, the strength, and the motivation to go ahead and do so.
Um,
Millicent.
no, no. Before you jump on that, I was going to go back to Emma, where he says you have to cover the one because of the children, but you may need to be there to save the children from the wrath of the abusive mother or father. But with that situation like that,
Which
what
one?
will happen is that in that abuse, and especially a lot of men think that once you're out, you struggle to see your children and that the system's all about the mother. I've learned a lot about the law when it comes to that. It's not actually that alone. There are ways that you can go around having contact with your child and not in a center as well. So what I was going to say is that is it best to stay regardless of how that person is. You're there trying to protect the children, but you're actually, from my perspective, there's more harm because all of this environment, this negative, shouty, whether it is physical, the children still suffer that, whether they're in their sleep or not. That's why when they say the baby in the womb can be affected by the abuse that happens on the outside, you know. So if that's the case, that you stay in an environment that's toxic, it can cause more harm. You know, I'm talking through experience. I believed that staying was better, but I was able to identify in it. It was better with me out and then fight to, because then they use the children. But it was easier for me to fight from the outside
than in.
to have my children, as opposed to fight on the inside. They're there. I'm spending all my time with them, but I'm unhappy. You know, people. Emma was saying unhappy. Jesus was not happy on the cross, but he never left. He stayed for the children. Right.
That's a completely different scenario.
It is a
Can I,
different
can I
scenario.
just say, can I just
Go
say
on.
this? Every time I talk, it's got kind of feedback when you talk. I
Okay.
liked when Millicent said, big difference, yeah, of fingernails and cat scratch, yeah. And then Vivine said, have you seen, I read it down the bottom here. Have you seen some of these nail styles? They look like cat claws, which is true. They
It's true, you know.
actually so cold, yeah. They actually do look like cat claws, you know. So you're absolutely right. You know, like Mummy would say, taking a bad thing make joke, but it's true. You know,
Yeah.
some of these scratches, you know, they could kind of like look like cat.
Passes, cat scratches.
Yeah. So I hear what you're saying, Amo, but I think that Jesus being on the cross is a completely different scenario. That means that we ought to suffer in situations that are toxic. I don't think he died for that we stay in.
I always say that we were never created, especially coming together as one, to be unhappy. Never, you know.
Mhm.
That's my personal opinion, and I stick by that. I don't think that
Yeah.
that if you're in an environment, I'm not talking about that things don't go wrong and you're unhappy about something, but when it's consistently the same knocking on the door, the constant beating, how can you truly then say in yourself, "Oh, I'm happy. I'm happy. That's all right. Okay. Oh, she did it again." You're not. There's no way that you're going to be, and that's not actually good for your body as well. The toxins in your body,
No.
knowing that all of this is happening, and then all of a sudden you're wondering why you're so ill, and you're allowing yourself, you're killing yourself slowly because you're standing on what you think is right, as opposed to, from my opinion, by the way, like I said, the disclaimer, don't chop off my neck, you know. But from my opinion, wouldn't it be better to come away and work from the outside if you both can work from the outside? I remember someone said that to me. They said, if you had left it, maybe we might have got back together, you know? And I kind of laughed because you were the abuser. Yeah? You're the abuser, but you're telling me if I left it, the possibility that we might have been back together, that you're still controlling the narrative. Yeah? Bye. And
Yeah.
not in a horrible way, but bye, because I'm more than that. Yeah, I know that I could have been in prison, rotten in that, because I bust you up or I chop you up, and I knew I had the capability of doing it, because everybody has the capability of doing
They
anything.
do.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a choice that you make. I made the choice that it was better for me to come out than to stay, and then I do something that I regret later on in my life, and my children regret. I'm behind bars and I can't get to spend time with my children. Bye.
Yeah. Mel said it's important to plan an exit strategy ahead. It is one of the most dangerous times in the abuse cycle when one is ready to leave because it is about power and control. And you're absolutely right. And it's good to have people around you. That's why I was saying, like, building yourself up if you can within that time, strengthening yourself so that you'll be able to make those decisions and make them specifically, like when I say tailored to you, it's like you can't go with what Jane Doe did. You have to think about the person that you're with. If you've got children, if you've got family members, and that person knows the family members and might come, because this control thing, we know, because we hear it in the headlines where women would get murdered. You know, it's more so women than men, unfortunately. And oftentimes it is because they're going to exit. So I don't tell anybody to exit. You know, I don't say to them, right, this is what you need to do, come out like today. I don't make that be my call. I literally will give them, I will signpost them to organizations that can help them to get out. That's what I do. I don't tell anyone get out, because I know that that can be a death sentence for some people. And that kind of situation, you don't want to be a part of it. I've known people to do that. I've known people, because you know, sometimes what you find is that with these abusive men in particular, their bark is worse than their bite. So when they come head up with a real man, and the man's sizing up to them, they cower down. You got some brothers and some cousins and that, and they see real men coming for you, they cower down, you know. And I do know that to be the case. I do
Yeah.
know where a woman wanted to leave her house, and some brothers rallied round, went to the no, wanted the man to leave the house, went to the house, told the brother to get out, got all of his stuff, told him to leave. Now he could have naturally come back and did any kind of madness, but he didn't, because the fear that was in him from the man them, he didn't come back. He didn't come back. And I know of a woman who was taken from her home, and it got nasty. It got violent, but again, was as far as it went. So, you know, every situation is different. And that's why you cannot say to someone, do this because this is what worked for me in this situation. You can't. You really have to let it play its course with that person in that situation. But I signpost um, a lot of women to organizations, because I primarily work with women after domestic abuse, when they're getting their lives back together, rather than those that are actually in the thick of it. A lot of those women I signpost, and those that are in it and they want to rebuild their confidence and get their strength back up, and their self-love and all of those things, I work with those women. Did you want to read those ones before we jump off, because we're going to be
Um, yeah. Emma says, I hear that, Paul, but it depends on the level of abuse, which is true. There is no one size fits all. I agree with that as well. Sometimes you have to accept a level of unhappiness for the greater good that is selfless. To a certain degree, yeah, I agree. Like I did, I stayed long, and longer than I really should have done. Because, like I said, when I left, then how much was left of me? So who was I good for? I actually was good for no one. I wasn't even good for myself. So you can get beaten again. It's the level of abuse. So I agree with you from that perspective. So, but to sit in a place, I mean, it's like people go to certain. You probably covered this in counselling, Debbie, coaching rather, like I did. Um, Sometimes people say I don't like my job. I hate my job. But it was never the job. It was an individual in the place, your manager, whatever else, that is just nasty. You enjoy doing the job. But some people then, you have those that go and do a job that they don't like doing because they just want to pay the bills. But then what do you like doing? What is that you really like? Yeah, but I can't do anything more. But you can do online courses. Yeah, but I don't understand. I ain't got the time. Okay, do you have a lunch break? Yeah, I do. Okay, so why don't you do part of the work, half of your lunchtime? Oh, I only get half an hour. Well, then do 15 minutes. When you went and you sat down, you've gone shopping and you spent the last 2 hours shopping, that could have been you studying at the same time, whether it be a man or a woman. So the fact is that you can always better yourself. This is how I look at it, coming away from being in an abusive relationship. See, I'm talking about abuse. So I don't know your situation, if you've been there, whatever else. I'm looking at my one personally, and each one that I've been in, and each one that I've participated in, it was better to be out. See, part-time dad is a man that doesn't take time out for his children, to talk to his children or go to events or whatever else. I'm not that dad. My children will tell you I'm not that dad. Everybody knows I'm active in my children's life. You can be active as if you still lived in the same house. If you don't live in the same house, there'll be those areas, but that could be you working shifts. I mean, I've done 84 hours a week, but I still, at the end, when I came away from my shift, go and pick up my child and spend time with my child. But if I was at home, I was at work. If I was living in the house, I would be working. So what? I leave house and you're sleeping. I come home and you're sleeping. So so it depends on your situation. And just quickly, I'll finish it up.
What one are you going to read? And I'll put it up.
I'm just going back. It depends on the level of abuse. Part-time fathers ain't protected. A good point. No, good point, Paul. Good point, Paul. If there is, it's the last one that was sent. Good point, Paul. If there is nothing left of you that you are unable to protect your children, that being a part-time father is better. But what's the definition of a part-time father? I said it just now. You've got men who are in the house and they spend no time with their children. I found that being out, I was able to find me, allow God to build my life back up, and become a better person. And becoming a better person, I never gave up on my children, no matter what was going on. Not being able to see my children, I fought for my children, took who I needed to take to court to see my children, because I understood the system now, that the system wasn't just about women. The system was about the children and the children's right, not my right, the children's right. So I knew to focus my energy on that, on the rights for the children, that they would have mother and father in their life. And so then once that happened, I was able to now give of myself to my children. If I read what my daughter sent me for my birthday, I don't know about Bob. The common ground of what they all say is that you're always there for me. You've always been there for me. You didn't live in the house, you've always been there for me. And this is the whole point. If you live in the house with your children and you're in an abusive situation, you're in an abusive situation. It's down to you. It's an individual choice. I can't do it. I can't function as a human being in all of that abuse. Yeah? And I don't think anybody should have to function in mesh.
You're not going to function. You're not going to be firing all pistols.
No, you can't. No,
because you're going to be depleted. You're not going to be able to be your true self. And something that someone said up here, about being unhappy. Like, I realized that, and I was listening to something the other day, and they really hit it on the head, because that's exactly how I feel about being happy now. Happiness is to do with what is happening around you. When you have joy within, what is happening around you does not dictate how you feel. And I realized that I was literally being unhappy in that situation. But when I started to dig deep and started to build back my confidence, my self-worth, the way how I was feeling inside, I remember waking up one day and thinking, I feel really good. I literally felt really good. And I was like, yeah. And I realized that that was actual joy, because my whole situation hadn't yet changed. It hadn't yet changed, but I was changing. And there was such a big difference to how I was feeling about me and feeling about life. And my emotions now was not attached to what was happening, which was causing me to feel unhappy. And so happiness is really about what is happening around you, is or isn't happening for you. but the joy that you have from within, no one can take that. You know, we sing that in it. The
Yeah.
the
The
world didn't.
world can't. The world didn't give it. The world can't take it away.
Absolutely, because this
Mm,
joy I have, the world didn't give it to me. And it was me identifying that I can't allow the situation to dictate how I feel, and I
mm,
cannot allow others to dictate how I feel. And for me, that was a huge wake up call, because my situation hadn't yet changed.
mm.
I was changing, and with me changing, I now had the power to make decisions and choices that ultimately was going to change.
I think that's excellent. That's good strength. That's so because I was the opposite end. I didn't know how to do. I'm married. I was, I was in say that it's come out. I was married. How do you now? You're supposed to be, from my perspective, on top of the world.
Forever.
Yeah. Wow. And you'll have issues, but well, hey, you're my wife, you're my husband. Hey,
Mhm.
and then you have on top of it Christian values. Yeah. But you see, not everybody who says they're a believer is a true believer. I'm a believer, but are you a true believer? So if you're abusing your husband or your wife, and you say that you believe in God, someone on the outside can question whether or not you're a believer if they know what the believer is supposed to be like and act like.
Mhm.
So we have to. A lot of us have to get our act together. And I just want to sign off with the last thing saying, there is help out there. There's
Mhm.
help out there for men. There's help out there for women. My dear sister, she's a good help. She's been through domestic violence. She's a good place to go to. Men, if you want to touch, if you're going through, or any men that are going through, and they'd like to touch base with me, by all means, you can leave a message on our on our page, or find a way, and then we'll message each other privately, and talk if necessary. You know, my last final word is what I've been saying, and I'll keep on saying as well. Two things I say is not get caught up in your feelings. But the other one is I am my brother's keeper, and that's my brother or my sister's keeper. I am. We have to be there for one another. This term is iron sharpeneth iron. We say it, but are you? Are you sharpening someone else? Are you there for somebody? How often do you know people going through a domestic situation or whatever else of, but yet I don't really want to get myself involved. We are our brother and our sister's keeper. So I will challenge anybody out there to be that for somebody else.
Absolutely. Well said. And you know what? I'm not going to go off on a tangent, but I could, based upon that very thing, you know, speaking to someone, and they said that they was talking to me one day, and they said something about, their neighbor, and they was just like, oh yeah, she gets bust up all the time. And it was just a passing comment, and it really troubled me. And I said to them, don't you call the police? And they actually said, what's the point? Because she ain't gonna leave the guy. Do you know what I mean? And I was just like, but do you realize that this goes on file? And so it helps her to build a case, do you get what I mean, against this person. If she ever gets the strength, ever gets the ability to leave, it builds a case for that person. And so I want to like echo what Paul said. You could be helping someone indirectly, because they might not be able to get to the phone. That if that man or woman sees them pick up the phone, they might box that phone out of their hand. They might not be able to do that. So you can be that person that picks up the phone and calls the police, whether it's one time, two times, three times that you've heard somebody screaming or someone shouting or whatever the situation is. Because there's shouting going on, you don't know if it's the woman or the man that's being abused. But you can be that person that stands in the gap for somebody and helps by calling the police. And it's not interfering. It's not. Don't let nobody fool you and say, oh, it's interfering. It's helping. That's what it is.
Bystander behavior.
You're saving somebody's life. So with that said, thanks Paul, for coming on
Thank
finally,
you. Yeah,
for being
finally.
distant and making sure that how many laptops did you get through?
Listen to me. Yeah, I went through three. I've got one on the floor here. Yeah, I've got one next door. I
What
just
kind
nothing
of
wanted to
laptops are
connect.
those?
Huh?
What kind of
Uh,
cheap laptops?
this one that I'm on is Catherine's one now, which is the same one as my one. Yeah, it was almost like it said,
That's crazy.
you ain't going on that tonight. It
Yeah.
just was no volume. You could
No,
hear
but
me.
what you said was absolutely valid, and I'm so glad that you was
Thank
able
you. I'm glad I
to
was as well.
be persistent and come on. And I really appreciate all your comments in the chat. It's an awesome
Thank you.
conversation
Thank you.
we're having tonight. Thanks for adding value to this topic that we've had. We
Absolutely.
definitely will be coming back on and sharing different aspects of it. You know, the children aspect. You know, the impact that it has on your mental health and so forth. So yeah, we really appreciate your time. We've gone way over time,
Way
but
over.
we started late, and we're just going with the flow. There's sometimes that, you know, it's just later. We started with an hour, and then like now it's like been an hour 15, 20, 5, whatever. But I hope that you guys enjoy the content, and please share, subscribe, put the
Tell your
notification
friends.
on, so that you know that when we're coming on and so forth, so you make sure that you'll join us. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and
Yes.
have an awesome night. Is Ammo laughing at your
Yeah, he is. He's saying three laptops, man. Up too much money. Yeah. When we need I when we need you what?
become borrow
When we need
some money.
it should be fit. Yeah. Comfy. Borrow what? You can borrow a laptop.
But yeah,
Listen.
take care,
Thank you,
guys, and
everybody.
thanks
Anthony,
for joining us.
you're valuable. Thank you very much for always
Yeah,
being here, supporting
absolutely.
us as well,
Thank you.
and commenting. I love the fact that you put in there. You turn it
You
up,
stir it up.
whichever way around. Yeah, and I like that. I said that about him. So thank you, everybody. You know, and Debbie, love you. You take it easy. All
Love
right.
you too. Take it easy.
Till next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Get
Let
your
me get my graphics
motivation.
up.
Yeah, you're gonna put your graphics up.